restoring Illinois to greatness. This is Illinois Rising, presented by the Illinois Policy Institute and hosted by AM 560's Dan Proft.
Dan Proft with Cole Lauterbach, back with Cole Lauterbach, a reporter for the Illinois News Network. And Cole, we just passed Tax Day in this country, but we haven't gotten to Tax Freedom Day quite yet. You did a piece on this issue.
I did. Tax Freedom Day in Illinois is coming up yet. It's April 28th. The backstory on this, when I interviewed a guy with the tax foundation that does this now, is they got this idea from a man in Florida who was sick and tired of hearing all of his neighbors there say, well, we don't pay any state income tax, and so we're a low tax state. And he said, well, you need to understand that you pay taxes on everything, and people weren't really understanding the concept of how much taxes they actually pay nationwide. So he would actually take our gross, what we earn, and then divide that up by days worked, and then take however long it takes us to pay off the total tax burden to the federal government, and then the average of states, local, municipal, and that gives you your tax freedom day in Illinois, where if you worked and paid nothing but taxes, 100% everything to taxes, it would be that day before your burden was fulfilled, and you could earn for yourself the rest of the year.
So January 1st to April 28th, if you live in Illinois, which I think is the seventh latest tax freedom day in the nation, which speaks to the overall tax burden in Illinois, which I think the Tax Foundation has us at fifth with an up arrow that we are going up, particularly if Democrats get their way. We talked earlier in the show about the graduated state income tax constitutional amendment that's been proposed by the Democrats, legislation sponsored by State Representative Lou Lang, in addition to where property taxes are. And despite the property tax burden and the lateness of Tax Freedom Day here, we have junk-rated, effectively bankrupt Chicago public school system, just about a junk-rated, effectively bankrupt city of Chicago, and state government with the worst credit rating in the country with $211 billion in debt and only $30 billion in assets. So, oh boy, we're facing the tax burden that we have and the late Tax Freedom Day that you've described, and yet look at the kind of revenue that we would need if we were just going to try to make Illinois a little bit more free to move tax freedom towards January 1st. Just on the revenue side and not on the spend side.
Right. Well, I mean, at this point, as far as CPS's credit line, they can only get a line of credit off of 18th Street between the hours of midnight and 4 a.m.
That's exactly right, yes.
And it's a matter...
If only they would break knees like they used to. Maybe that would facilitate some better fiscal management.
But at this point, it looks like the day's only going to get later in the year. And not to mention the fact that when you talk about Chicago, obviously their property taxes are lower than when you look at some of the collar counties who are paying twice the value for their house, in property taxes, local municipal property taxes, before they actually would move out of their home or pay their home off. And it's, Chicago, though, has more than 30 different taxes. So it's death by 1,000 cuts in the city of Chicago. And most of them are morality taxes, where it penalizes you for doing bad things like smoking or getting paid more.
And right, exactly, yes. And we're not saying which is better or worse. In addition to that, that doesn't even factor in all the other creative schemes they come up with to separate you from your money. So think red light cameras and speed cameras. Those aren't technically taxes. But that certainly is included in the cost of living or doing business in a place like the city of Chicago.
Yeah. The tax foundation, when they go state by state, they do a pretty thorough analysis of everything, that when they look at the total tax burden, and they don't factor in cost of living, but what they do factor in is just how many little things you're going to get dinged with by living in the state in general. In Cook County, I mean, when I spoke with one of the guys at Tax Foundation, said that all of those little taxes move our tax freedom day in Illinois in general pretty significantly.
Well, Cole Lauterbach, reporter for the Illinois News Network, thanks for joining us and concluding the show on this depressing note. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.